I now call on Chair of that committee, Deputy McGuinness, to sum up
if you wish. Let me tell you, Minister, and the Minister that is absent, the, Minister Darcy, that your response is shocking. You're living in a bubble and you do not understand what is actually happening. And your arrogance is such that you have decided to lecture the committee on process and proper presentation of a motion. Members of your party are members of this committee. They have agreed unanimously to the content of the motion. It has been placed before the House in a proper manner, and it calls for certainty within a marketplace that is unregulated. The manner in which you have addressed the issues in an attempt to mislead the people that might be listening, telling us about what we should and shouldn't do, telling us about the department, and then getting involved in a red herring. We're not talking about investment funds that make positive investments in this country. We're talking about vulture funds, the ones that come in and buy up the market at the lowest rate possible and then treat people abominably. And you want to dress up the committee in nice language to ask these vultures in before us, who at the same time beat up the very people that represent the mortgages. Now, Deputy Rabbit has brought in the human face to this issue, has brought in the fact that there are real people, families, young children involved in all of this, that there are people who have lost their lives through suicide because of this. That is a fact. The IFA take it seriously now. They are getting engaged. What more evidence do you need about vulture funds when you see repossessions going on all over the country and people appearing at them with balaclavas and dogs? What kind of society are you allowing to be created by people who are not even from this country, who have come here for no other reason but to profit on the backs of the people that are in distress? And when they're turned to government, your only response is the nonsense, the pathetic response that is in the Minister's reply, trying to personalise it to me rather than the committee, attempting to lecture the committee on what they should do. We have provided the report to this House, based on witnesses' report, based on fact. We have the letter from the Central Bank that actually concludes, if you read between the gobbledygook in it, that actually they don't want to regulate the vulture funds. The ECB, in a recent visit by our committee to their officials over the last few weeks, they say they never told the Irish banks to reduce their exposure to bad loans down from 26% in some cases to 5%. They never instructed the banks in Ireland to sell to the vulture funds. They've asked for the banks to work out the loans with the individuals concerned. But what the banks want to do is outsource the dirty, grubby work of repossessions and dragging families through the courts. All you have to do is look at how they presented the sales, look at how the banks presented the sales during the recess. Thousands of them. And as Tommy Brune has said, that we're in agreement with arrangements with the bank. But the bank decided to go against the ECB and to decide that part of the loan that had to be warehoused, if that was the case, that was a non-performing loan and must go. Shame on you, Minister, and shame on the Minister for Finance for attempting to throw up a smokescreen in front of the members of this committee in this particular debate. So let's look at what's happening here. The vulture funds don't pay tax. The banks don't pay tax. You want us to talk softly and nicely to the witnesses that might appear before the committee. But you're not recognising the fact that those very same witnesses are probably part of an entity that is beating up the citizens of this state, making their life misery, dragging them through the courts as lay litigants in some cases, where children watch their parents trying to defend their family home. Is that what you want to create? Is that what you're happy with? Because it seems to me 125 meetings with the Department of Finance. How many recent meetings have been arranged in the Department of the Environment in relation to housing projects with vulture funds? That needs to be answered too, Minister. You're not going about your business in a state that doesn't watch you. And the general public know damn well what's going on. And you look at what happened to the vulture funds in this instance, where we bailed out the banks. Those very same banks then sell on almost 700 houses to vulture funds. This is a fact. Cerberus is the name of the fund. And then the state comes along and purchases those very same 700 houses, not at the knockdown price or a bit of added value for the vulture funds in what they paid for them originally, but at market value. And then you have the neck to actually include those figures in the Building Ireland acquisition figures. So the vulture funds, the banks, the entities beyond the family have gained on the double, on the treble in that instance. And you think that's okay. And you think that maybe we should write to the vulture funds, you said, or the agents, and maybe ask them questions in writing. I can tell you, Minister, we're fed up of writing on behalf of the Irish people to the agents and the vulture funds. We're fed up of the heavy-handed activity of the same funds. We're fed up of the language that they use to their customers in attempting to gain the last pound of flesh from them. And those very same people that they're creating this poor quality of life for by way of their action are appealing to us to intervene. Appealing to us to intervene. So if you're in agreement with the confidence and supply arrangement, if you say you're going to bring forward legislation to protect the SMEs, to protect the business loans, to protect the homes of individuals and families, well, why aren't you doing it? Why is it that Deputy McGrath, now going into our third budget with you lot, is the one that had to bring forward the legislation in the first place? And this is the reply from the finance officials at the committee, in case you think that we haven't asked all of the questions. We did. There are about 4 levels of regulation that you can have in the context of these firms. And the Department of Finance tell us that if we were to regulate the vultures, it would probably be the lowest level of regulation that exists. And that's not what we want. We want proper, upfront regulation. We want to have them appear by right before the committee. We don't want, like you, to engage with them, to try and get them to respond to you, to deal with them on a softly basis. And how dare you question how witnesses are treated at the committee? I have seen witnesses before this House being treated properly, and some of them being treated in a way that they had to be treated because they weren't forthcoming with any of the information. And I think the Irish people have a right to expect us to deal with matters as we see fit in getting to the truth and in getting to the answers. So I'd ask you again, Minister, to acknowledge positively the work of the committee and what we are trying to do. To acknowledge the fact that the stories that we've been telling you, or that you say are just being told generally out there, that they are in fact real, that we have lost lives, that people have lost their homes, that people are under threat. Go down to the courts and see how many are lined up there, going through a process unfamiliar to them, desperate to try and save their homes. And then look across, they have a wallet and the €250, and then you look over at the representation from the banks, solicitors, barristers, senior counsel, junior counsel. And one point that was made by the Sinn Féin spokesperson: you cannot get information from them. They will leave you hang and sweat it out. They will not proactively try and resolve the issues. And it's shame on this government if you don't proactively engage and bring about a situation where not only are they accountable, but they have respect for this House and respect for the Irish people.
Deputy